I'm Dave Steigerwald. I'm the professor of history and the director of the program in the Transnational study of World War II, which includes a number of classes here on campus and then a study abroad trip through Europe in the May term. I'm lucky enough to have Kelsey Mullen here with me today. Kelsey was in the second of the now 7 groups that we've taken. So I'm just wondering if you could tell us what you're doing now and where you've gotten to since graduation.
Sure. So I'm an attorney. I work as a business litigation associate at Thompson Hine here in Columbus, and I'm working a lot in the areas of commercial contract disputes. I work a lot in fiduciary duty litigation and consumer finance litigation, and then I've done some work in employment law, primarily in the area of restrictive covenants.
Thompson Hine's a pretty big firm, isn't it?
We have offices in Ohio, New York, DC, Georgia, and we have an Illinois office in Atlanta now, or in Chicago now.
That's a pretty big firm then. So how many attorneys all in all?
We have over 400.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Are you interested in the work you're doing?
Oh yeah, yes. One kind of cool thing that I've gotten to do, just because I'm in an office of about 40 attorneys out of a pretty large firm, so the work that we're doing is really cool and really sophisticated, but because we're in kind of a more close-knit group, I get to do really cool work as a second-year associate. So instead of kind of doing more traditional legal work that you would see for a business litigation first or second-year associate, I'm writing briefs, I'm going to hearings, I'm talking to clients, and so it's been really, really cool.
And it's you've been able to stay in Columbus, right?
So yes.
You haven't even had to move. Law school, you went to?
Moritz, yes, WWII. So I started at Moritz in 2016, graduated and took the bar exam last summer, took the bar exam last summer and then started in September at the firm. Right. So I'm coming up, it's been a year.
Well, you had a great career at Moritz too, so how did that go?
It was great. I came into Moritz immediately out of undergraduate, out of my undergrad degree, and I'm trying to think. I was involved with the Student Bar Association, Public Interest Law Foundation. I did a couple of really cool externships with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Capital Habeas Unit with the Federal Public Defender's Office. I took a lot of really interesting classes that kind of shaped where I wanted to go after law school. I realized that I was really interested in litigation. I didn't know specifically what kind of litigation, but I figured I could find somewhere to kind of narrow that focus. And
you moved right into Thompson Hine,
mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly.
You didn't skip a beat. But you were also president of the Moritz student body, weren't you?
I was. So my third year, I was the Student Bar Association president. So I was primarily responsible for kind of running the student programming and putting on different events and coming up with, I kind of had a budget and I was able to kind of allocate that and decide what things I wanted to focus on, what new things I wanted to try. It was it was fun because I got to work with the faculty and the administration. I got to see kind of what was going on behind the scenes, and I got to be the voice of the student body in a lot of these faculty meetings because it's me and it's 1 or 2 other students, and so we did a lot of work on the curriculum whenever I was there, and I was really excited to be the person who they would turn to ask, say, you know, if we're at this many credit hours, is that too much for the students? How are they doing all of this? Are they feeling prepared for their finals? And being able to go back to them and say, look, I did a poll because, you know, Dave Steigerwald taught me that I need to have data to back up what I say. So, you know, go back to them and say, you know, this is what the students are saying. This is what they want to see. And I was able to actually build a lot of really great relationships with the faculty over the last couple of years, and many of them have been references for me, and I still go to lunch with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So that was a really great way to be involved.
And I know that they hold you in high esteem over there, and I'm sure that all of this success that you've had is due to having been a member of the 2014 World War II
Absolutely.
Program.
That is where it all started,
all
truly.
goes back to that, yeah, I know. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
How did you get involved? Do you remember? Because it's been a while, right? So
yes. Longer than I thought, apparently. So, I came in undergrad knowing that I wanted to go into law school.
Right.
And so I started in history. I didn't really have a focus per se. I kind of took classes that sounded really interesting, and I kind of fell into the program. I just happened to come across it. It was in the second year, like you had said, and I thought, wow, that's incredibly interesting. I have a lot of personal interest in World War II. I have a great-grandfather who served, and then my great-great-uncle actually died in San Lo, so that was it was a pretty prevalent theme growing up. It was something we talked about in our family. It was something that my family was always really proud of. And so I had a lot of personal interest, and then I found this program where I could get class credit to go and study abroad, and that sounded incredible. So then I came and talked to you, and you were all right. So I thought, man, this will be okay. And I applied, and then we had classes.
So remind me, had you done any traveling before then?
No, not out of the country.
You were one of the people who really, you traveled within the United States, but had never been abroad before.
No, I had been, I think, to Niagara Falls one time. That was it.
And you gambled a bit, now that I'm remembering, by going to Ireland for a couple of days before.
Yes.
With a couple of your new comrades.
Yes.
So there was a bit of a gamble in that,
Yes.
wasn't there?
Yeah.
But that was a good way to start, probably.
It was awesome. We flew into Dublin, and so David Corrigan and Nick Gilder talked me into it. We decided we were going to go to Dublin. We were going to see all of Dublin. We were going to go to the Guinness factory. We were going to go to the Jameson distillery. And so
What else is there in Dublin? That's
right.
about it. Well, so as we went along, you experienced things that you hadn't seen before. Did it open your eyes to anything?
Yes. Yeah. The entire experience was really incredibly powerful. I think England, London was awesome. It was a really cool experience. There were a lot of awesome places we visited there. The Churchill War Rooms were really cool. But I think what really stuck with me was Normandy. I thought Normandy was just so moving. It was incredibly powerful. I mean, I remember being there with Henry, where we went to the site where his uncle had passed away, and it was really, really, really just moving. That's the best way that I can think of to describe it. And we grow up hearing all of these stories, and we have a general understanding of what happened, and we think that we kind of get the story. We know the characters. We know kind of what we should expect whenever you go there, and then you get there, and it all just kind of like crashes down on you, and you just realize what you're looking at and where you're standing. And specifically, Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, it was like getting hit with a wave, right? It was very emotional, even for me. I don't necessarily have a very, very close connection, but it was very emotional, and I'm so glad that I got to have that experience, because it's one thing to hear a story, right? It's another thing to stand there and to think about it and to, really, really understand what happened. And I really appreciated that, especially in Normandy.
It's obviously stuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing. We must have done something right.
Yeah.
How did the program help you build skills and carry on from the time we got back through your senior year, right?
Yes.
And then into law school?
Mm-hmm.
Has it helped you in the long run?
Well, now I can navigate a metro in a foreign city.
That's a skill.
That's a skill. We went through 3 of them, and none of them were easy. So, well, at first, you think they're easy, but
yeah, well, you get used to them, and
farm folk, it's a little intimidating. So.
Well, the other thing is, I've figured out how to navigate with 20 students.
Yes.
I was still learning myself when you were with me, so.
But yeah. So that was a big one, which will come in handy. My husband's never been to Europe, so whenever we take him back, one of us will have an idea of what's going on.
It's high time to take him.
It really is. But yeah, coming back, I knew that I was going into law school, and I decided to do a thesis with Professor Conklin, which was an awesome experience. And that also specifically really, I think that skill-wise really helped a lot with law school, because essentially I was guided by Professor Conklin, but it was developing your own kind of idea, developing your idea for your paper, developing your outline, and then going to the archives. I was there for a week just going through these incredibly old papers, and it was so cool. But it was so, you have to figure out how to get all the information you need in a very short amount of time, get home, organize it, figure out what you found, figure out how it fits into your research, figure out how it changes what you thought your answer was, and then you have to convey that to another person in a succinct manner.
Yeah, and the thing about you is that you started late, and you still pulled off a pretty good honors thesis. And so it was a total success all the way through, as far as we were concerned. and you'd worked very, very hard on it. I do remember that. And I remember her coming in and telling me, "Oh, Kelsey Mullen, she's really, she is going great guns." And you did pull it off, yeah. And those are skills that carry pretty closely into legal research and so forth.
Absolutely. You know, someone hands you a box of documents and you have to figure out what happened, what's going to happen, what you can say on behalf of your client, and whether they're going to win.
And you got to make a case.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's a directly applicable skill. And I will say that in every, I would say almost every, if not every single interview that I have been in law school and looking for a job after law school, that thesis has come up every single time. And the World War II trip itself has come up in almost every single interview I've ever done. I mean, people just are so intrigued by it. They see it on a resume and think, oh, that's something I can ask about.
Yeah, yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think that we can do anything more to help you move along to the places you want to go.
Well, not a lot of people have that significant of writing experience on one substantial project. So I think that really impressed some people, and especially for applying for your job for your first summer, you don't really have a lot. People don't have a lot of information about you as far as law school is concerned. They have maybe one semester of grades, and they have
a score on a test.
Right, right. So they don't really know who you are, especially as somebody who is a member of the legal community. So you are conveying through what you've been doing for the past, 6 years in undergrad, as opposed to exactly in that moment. So I think that really helps me as well.
Well, there are two things that I like about, that I most like about doing what I'm doing. The first thing is that I get to see really talented people. I get to be with really talented students who then go on and show how much talent they have. And the second thing is that I have good friends like you who come back and talk to me every once in a while. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Great.